What is the most BS reason for a teacher to give you a bad grade? Because he didn't read my paper. It was a university class where a TA was responsible for grading the papers. He was clearly overwhelmed and just reading introductions and grading based on them alone. I had a 2-part introduction that fully addressed the prompt, but as he only read the first part, one got my paper back with a big C at the top. I ended up getting full credit after I challenged the initial grade. We had weekly spelling tests in my 11th grade English class, which I thought was a bit remedial by that point, and probably said so in a not completely diplomatic way. The teacher even made you write any words you got wrong 5 times and hand that into her. By the end of the class, I would typically get perfect scores on them. But one time I got a test back with no actual errors, marked as a 0%. My teacher's explanation was she saw me talking to someone in our free period before class who ended up doing poorly, and that was my fault because I distracted them from possibly studying. What? How does this make literally any sense? Wrote in Chicago format and lost points. The assignment instructions said to write in Chicago format. Edit to anyone curious. I did try and point this out. Basically still lost points, but they upped the final grade. I did a presentation in biology. The teacher told me she wanted me to do a creative introduction instead of just opening it with the standard "today I'll be presenting." So I did. I invented a short story about an old lady going to the supermarket and worked in some early symptoms of Alzheimer's, the topic I was presenting. I was so invested in that character. She had a name and a backstory. I even drew up a few comic panels so that everyone could follow along easily. Then at the end of my presentation I asked my class which symptoms the old lady in the story had, and hence what stage her Alzheimer's was. I get my grade back, and the teacher deducted points for the intro, since she told me to do a creative intro, so it wasn't an original idea. Like, what the heck? I came up with the story. I drew the comic panels. All of that was me. I felt so betrayed. If I hadn't done a creative intro she would have deducted points, so I did one. And she deducted points anyway. And after all that work, still grinds my gears. I was 15 at the time. I was taking a 1-week online class. In the syllabus, the teacher said you must post 6 times throughout the week. So, I posted 6 times on Monday, 1 times on Wednesday, and felt I was good to go. I get my grade, teacher comments, and the teacher wrote KNO 905. You had some good posts early in the week, but then you stopped posting. So in order to mark you down. I was annoyed by this, but then realized it was the last online course in the program, and frankly I didn't care. I still graduated, and that certificate is proudly sitting in my junk drawer for all to see. Taking online courses now, and the rule in almost every single class seems to be 1 post and comment on 2 of your classmates' posts. Every week it's the same posts. Topic is really interesting and important. I really learned a lot, especially about quote from lecture slide. Then a few responses saying I really agree. Topic really is important in today's industry. A friend of mine got a -1 for scratching his head. Our teacher said he was faking it. My 7th grade gym teacher gave me at because I hardly ever smiled. My life sucked at that time. You seem like an unhappy kid. Let me give you something else to be unhappy about because of it. Not me, but a 7-year-old student I coached for a public speaking contest. She is a child prodigy, a self-taught fluent English speaker in a country where very few people speak good English. She also has a natural sense of how to structure a speech, and gives all her speeches impromptu instead of memorizing. After she finished her speech, the first response from the judges was, "Do you think you speak better English than us?" Spoiler alert, she does. I spoke to them and none of them were truly fluent. They then gave her the second lowest grade possible. She got a bad grade for being better than the person grading her. I didn't like a movie that was supposed to be her favorite. She would do stuff like this all the time to other students as well. Complaints were made, but I graduated before I saw where it lead. She gave me a 0 because she didn't think I read the book. She said I would have gotten a 75% if she thought I read it. 75% of the test questions right supposedly means I didn't actually do the reading. Still one of those things that pisses me off even 10 years later. In the 90s my family didn't have a computer and I had no access to one. I spent a lot of time on a handwritten assignment for school and the teacher gave me a B. Writing as a comment, I would have given you an A if you had typed it up on a computer. I'm still bitter. My teacher lost my coursework on the bus home. I refused to redo a year's worth of work in 3 weeks, and I got taken from an A to a C. BS. School sided with him. My friend failed French because she had a French accent, and the teacher couldn't understand her French because she was American. My friend had spoke French since she was 4. Got points off because of the bad grammar in the quote I used. The quote was a penheme as I'm become death, destroyer of worlds. I got 10 on a test, but my teacher took points away from me because she didn't want my classmates to be jealous of my grade. This was English class in a Dutch school, so English is a requirement. I was the only native English speaker in my class and this was a course for adults only. 4th grade, the day before Thanksgiving break. There was no work to be done of course, so we had a busy work art assignment. We were all handed graph paper and told to color each of the squares either yellow, orange, red, or brown. And once we finished, we were supposed to cut out corn shapes to make Indian corn decorations. I already thought this WAA stupid, and filling in all the squares was tedious. So I traced the corn shape on the graph paper and only filled in the squares that would end up as part of the final product. This meant my decorations looked the same as all the others. But I didn't waste time filling in squares that would just get cut away. When the teacher saw what I had done, she gave me a 50 for skipping work. A spelling test, not graded by the teacher, but by the kid next to us. Kid named Anthony decided all my words that had letters U and E were switched and marked pretty much every word wrong. They weren't. Like, this was probably in 3rd grade so my handwriting was chicken scratch. But that was really stupid to me. I was upset since it was the first time I failed something in school. When I was 16, in the middle of doing my GCSEs, my dad got into a serious car accident. He was in intensive care for about 2 months. During that time, we were told that he would probably not survive. Thankfully, he pulled through. But in the meantime, I hadn't been doing any coursework or going to school. This happened in January. My exams were in May-June. I managed to do enough revision to pass my exams, but I never managed to finish my coursework for art class. The quality of my work was worth an A, but I hadn't done enough of it. I applied for mitigating circumstances, meaning that if granted, my work could have been marked on quality rather than quantity, but for whatever reason, the school refused. So I ended up getting a bad grade. That was 10 years ago, and I'm still angry about it. I broke my right arm in 3rd grade. I write with my right hand. The teacher gave me a bad grade because my handwriting with my left hand was barely legible. I failed a lit exam in college because I answered a question too well. We were supposed to write an essay comparing and contrasting one of the books that we read that semester to a modern concept or ideal. We had known about this particular question for weeks, so we had had plenty of time to prepare. Apparently it's possible to be too correct, because the response I got was that, though it is clear I did not plagiarize, none of my thoughts were original and matched too closely with the author's interpretation of the work. I was the only person in the class to not only fail, but to get less than a B. I got no other bad marks on the rest of the exam either. He failed me based on just that one part. In high school, I used the word lascivious to describe a character in a book and my teacher didn't know what the word meant. So logically, he took off a point. Oh my god, you just reminded me of the time my high school teacher didn't believe unison was a word. Memes. 30. You didn't give me a point for this, but it is on the mark scheme. Miss 30, I don't agree with the mark scheme, so I didn't give you the mark. For context, this is a standardized test, which is why there is a mark scheme. I got a F the first semester in chemistry, and I was really pushing myself to get a better grade for the next semester. Needed a good grade to study what I wanted. Then we heard that another teacher from another school would make the test, but the teachers in our classes would grade it. So I have been doing all in my power. Read everything, written summaries, did the math, watched documentaries, etc. And I get the final grade, D. And I was very happy with that. Then my teacher takes me aside and tells me that I actually got a way better grade, C, could pass as a B. But if he gave me a C, it would look bad for him, since I got a F on his test the semester before. So I was pretty pissed after that. But he left before I could say anything. It was my last day of school as well. Didn't happen to me, but a teacher kinda gave everyone in a class bad grades because they ditched her. They all planned to hang out after the last class. Guess she was bitter about it. This would be an A paper from some other students, but you can do better. I got a C, and no other feedback on how to improve. Your mistake was being too awesome on your previous papers. I had a bitchy religion professor back in junior high school. She lowered the grade of another student because they had written in the exam that when Moses got the 10 commandments there was lightning, when the correct answer was thunderbolts. I already posted here, but I have another story. Had a high school French teacher who failed me on a written test for using pencil. He claimed his eyes only saw pen. My family was outraged and called the dean. The dean was like, oh well, he's getting them ready for standardized tests. My entire family had master's degrees and were like, what standardized test is in pen? It's always pencil. This is a school. Years later I have my doctorate, and not one goddamn test ever was pen only, standardized or otherwise. My paper didn't make her feel happy. It was an analytical writing course designed to teach how to write a thesis. The teacher was one of these super hippie artsy people, and most of the curriculum involved just reading articles she failed to get published. So we had to do this analytical discourse on someone's work, and it was trash. So I picked it apart. I got a F. I went to her saying WTF. I followed the rubric to theta response so well. The paper was good and all, but it didn't make me happy. It was kind of mean, and I don't like mean. I was like, the assignment was to find flaws in the paper. It had countless. She replied yes, but it didn't make me happy. You get a F. I went to the chair, and it turns out her father was on the board of directors, and she had sued the school several times. So she was bulletproof and got to do whatever the heck she wanted. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit universe.